Well, I mean, and a lot of people, let's face it, I mean, truth be told, you can hold your own in a debate. I mean, I'm telling you, when you were on public radio, a public conservative radio, those first 2 weeks, I listened every time you were on, and let me tell you, they were on you. They were attacking you, and it was predominantly the ultra-conservatives calling in, and they felt threatened by you. But the funny thing happened. A couple of months into it, they were like, where is he?
Well, my training is as an investigative reporter. The facts speak for themselves. And let me tell you, for our audience out there, you know, whatever group you're participating in, I believe in freedom of the press. Be it the left, the right, independent, or whatever, it needs to exist. The mainstream media is not going to satisfy our needs. This show has had a big impact in the community. You know, it's sort of like a middle ground. There's a lot of groups out there that are too extremist. Well, this particular show is right in the middle.
I appreciate
right where, and you got a lot of people listening, and everybody's rotating around this show because it's setting the tone. And there's very few shows like this that I know of that are appearing. But the important thing is that in media, it's a search for truth, Joe. And one thing I've realized when I pick an issue, I put all my energy into it because like that right now it's a Mauricio Celis case.
And that's why we got you on here. When I heard about that, I said, we got to bring him on.
It's a search for the truth. And one thing I've realized in a debate, when I walk into a debate, it's that oppression and injustice can never be justified. You can be the greatest debater in this world. You can give it the greatest spin. You can bring down the heavens to your audience and persuade and use the greatest methodology that's available. But let me tell you something. In the end, it's about right and wrong. In the end, it's about truth. It's about the facts. And that's what we go after. We go after the meat. Right now we have an issue about Mauricio Celis.
Let's jump into that. Now we've heard, and I've heard from people all around are talking about it. I mean, Defenzor Radio, you came out, hard Thursday, Friday, and your take on this is what on the Celis case?
Well, I interviewed, as being a journalist for 12 years, and 80% of our newspaper is about politics. And usually most Hispanic papers, when we came out, we were predominantly, an audience in Robstown was 99.9 Hispanic. You can't say El Defensor is any longer about Hispanics, it's about the whole community. Defensor basically means defender. And the concept was the defender is the little guy, not that he's Hispanic or Anglo or black. It's the guy fighting for the masses to bring out the best in the community. When we saw this attack on Mauricio Celis, we saw that the Attorney General came in, and he had been around for a while. You remember there were some indictments in Robstown he went after regarding voter fraud, and it was mostly elderly people, Hispanic women. So you begin to look at who they're targeting, and you begin to establish a certain pattern. I began to look at the Mauricio Celis case, and I noticed the spin. I began to talk to Republicans, Republicans deep inside the party, Republicans that actually strategize for the party, Republicans all the way to the state level that sit in the executive committee of the Republican Party. And their job is to really initiate attacks against Democrats. Really? And vice versa. I've interviewed Democrats that sit on the other side of the table. And I'm honored that people share a lot of this inside information with me. I went around in the region and looked at the Democratic Party, and basically their conclusion was this. The AG has been looking for locations in South Texas because they have not been able to dominate and we're talking about an element within the Republican Party that holds very extremist, radical ideas about how South Texas should be governed, about the culture of South Texas. They point out about the palanca, but they give it a spin to where everybody is portrayed as corrupt and the system is oppressive. And when I was in Austin, even the head of the Railroad Commission up there in his office, and I'll share it with my audience. You know, one of the sources, one of the guys from El Defensor got to visit with him there in his office. And he talked about how the governor wanted his office. He talked when Bush was there, and they were looking at cities like Robstown, cities like Bishop, like Driscoll, and they were saying, man, we know those little cities. But why do we know those little cities? Well, they told El Defensor, well, because they've always remained loyal to the Democratic Party. And we have not been able to make inroads. And he said it's sort of like love. You know, sometimes men want the most beautiful woman. And they want her because she turned them down. They can't have her. You know, this is just an analogy, man. But what I'm saying is,
it's a powerful one.
You know, it's a powerful one here in South Texas. And they're saying, well, it's because the party's oppressive. But they've pointed out that they're hiring marketers. They're hiring specialists.
And who's they, just to be clear?
Well, we're talking about an element within the Republican Party.
And now you're not saying that all of Republicans are doing this.
No, of course not. There's different kinds of Republicans.
Okay.
Some are spiritual. They joined the party because of spiritual reasons, some because of business reasons. Right. You got, you know, it's... But
there's a faction in the Republican
Party. There's an extremist faction that feels that the Democratic Party is an oppressive party, and really the target is the Democratic Party. Celis, the way he's being portrayed, and one of them is the AG. We're talking about the State Attorney General, and this is merely my opinion, doesn't reflect the show, but I think he's part of that extreme element, very ambitious, trying to get up there. And of course, we've had a lot of Hispanic Republicans in the area have done the same thing, targeted the Republican Party in the past. We had René de Alejandro, the former mayor and police chief of Robstown, turns Republican, runs for state rep, targets the Democratic Party, targets Salomon, targets all this individual. What happens after he loses the election? Gets a state appointment. Now he has a home in both Austin and in Houston.
But isn't that just politics?
Well, they're talking about corruption, and they're talking about favors, and they're talking about, well, we see it reflected in both sides.
Oh, okay.
Then we see people like Sam Granato from Corpus Christi, brilliant man that worked for, I believe, the sheriff department here. Then he ran for what? For chair for.
I think Claiborne,
and then he went down to Claiborne County, and he executed his plan there also. Attacked Democrats there. Brilliant execution. You know, we're political analysts and strategists, and when you see something that works, I mean, you have to give it credit, you know. But then what happens though? He gets this appointment in Tacoma, Washington. You have local John Longoria that turned Republican, and he ran for county judge sometime back against Judge Borchert. You know, I think he was brought in to run the Boys and Girls Club at one time. He had a popular following. Who does he work for now? The Colorado River Authority. Here you're talking about a political appointment that, so there's certain favors. But now we see Carlos Valdez in the formula, a Democrat. What happens, the AG comes to Corpus. This is the scenario I'm painting. That generalizing from the information that I've gotten. He comes to Corpus, to Nueces County. They open a door for him. Sheriff Jim Kalin opens that door for him, a Republican. And he says, you know what? We have a guy here, Mauricio Celis. He's not a candidate. He's not running for office. He just gave money to certain candidates, and it seems he makes a good target. You know, it's assertions without proof, again, that I'm talking about. So they're not really, in one sentence, they're not targeting Mauricio. That's what I'm saying. They're targeting Mauricio as a byproduct